Welcome back. Now, manufacturing production decreased by 5.2% year-on-year in June, following a 1.2% fall in May. Joining me now to provide greater perspective on the print is economist at Investec, Lara Hodes. Lara, thanks so much for joining us today. Now, we're rounding off manufacturing activity for the second quarter. We started off on a high note in April, where there was an uptick in production, but that started tapering off as we did see declines in both May and June. As we get started, just take us through some of the pressure points in that sector.
Sure. So as you mentioned, we had a strong April, up notably, and then in May and June, I think the biggest challenge facing the sector was subdued demand, and this despite the continued suspension of load shedding. Furthermore, despite that favourable electricity supply environment, the manufacturing sector still faces a number of challenges, including, and probably one of the most important, is logistics constraints, which continue to weigh not only on domestic activity, but also export potential.
Now, we'll get into those other risks in a bit. On a cumulative level, there was some positivity. Production increased 0.9% in the second quarter. I guess this bodes well for overall GDP growth within that quarter.
Yes, that's correct. So the measure we use to calculate GDP is a quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted measure. And on that basis, manufacturing sector has picked up by 0.9%, which is modest, but it should contribute favorably to the second quarter's GDP reading, which we're expecting to come out at the beginning of September.
Now, I mean, we talked about, some of the challenges that the manufacturing sector has been experiencing. And I mean, on a macroeconomic environment, it's quite downbeat if we're being honest. But there has been some bright spots. As you mentioned, the constant supply of energy, as we haven't had load shedding for about 3 months, I think. It doesn't seem like that is filtering through. Are all those other challenges just hindering activity?
So electricity supply has definitely aided the manufacturing sector. It is an energy-intensive sector. However, as I mentioned previously, there are a number of challenges. And also there was heightened political uncertainty in May and June leading up to the elections, with uncertainty about the formation of the new government of national unity. So I think that led to demand pressures because people were reluctant to place new orders during that period.
Now, Lara, it doesn't seem like there is light at the end of the tunnel. As you said, there was some sort of uncertainty around May, June, because, it was just before the election and just before the GNU was formed and finalized. But when we look at the ABSA PMI for July, it's bounced back into positive levels, and new car sales also improved in that period. Surely we're going to see some upbeat numbers coming through for the third quarter.
Yes, that's correct. So the ABSA manufacturing PMI index jumped into expansionary terrain in July. The business activity and new sales orders sub-indexes jumped markedly during the period, up 14.5 and 17.4 points respectively. The BER says that these improvements suggest that on-hold orders are now being realized and translated into better activity, now that there's better political certainty. So we definitely, this does bode well, definitely, for improved manufacturing activity going into the third quarter. We also will definitely see a pickup in confidence, both business and consumer confidence going forward, which will translate into better demand conditions.
Do you think it's going to be sustainable, though? I mean, going back to those challenges, we also have, water supply issues as well.
Yes, so there are always going to be risks globally because, we rely heavily on our exports. And on the electricity supply side, we have seen this stable situation, but there are, of course, risks on that side too. So while we are positive, especially going into next year, we are looking still at moderate growth for this year of only 1%, but definitely positive for the future.
All right, Lara, thanks so much for joining us and just unpacking that print for us. That was economist at Investec, Lara Hodes.